Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, where we sit down and dissect the latest and the greatest in film. I am Dan Allen Movies, one of the greatest reviewers on Instagram and the Nolan fanboy, and a humble guy at that. I'm joined as always by the lover of Lynch, the man with over 2,500 films on his watch list, and the man who is a little bit delusional.
Delusions!
Jackson, aka Marshall on Film. How you doing?
Fantastic, Dan. And I'm even better knowing that I didn't just wake up in Knock'em-Stiff, Ohio. We might be still stuck in lockdown because it is Corona time after all.
Yeah, it is Corona time.
It's Corona time. Hey, it's Corona time right now.
He's getting better at the cues, isn't he?
He's getting much better. We're making progress. Not only is our lovely and excellent editor, Dan Allen Gaming, getting much better with his new DJ Allen role, but restrictions are being eased, Dan. Who knows? It might only be a matter of weeks before we are back in cinemas and we can finally see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Give us that cue. Give us that cue.
You're not going to get it, but we got about a month ago here in Melbourne. Now, for all you listeners in America, UK, wherever you are, guys, Melbourne has the harshest restrictions in the world. The worst restrictions. We are locked at home. We have a curfew. We did have a curfew. And we were only allowed...
What? A curfew?
A curfew. And we're only allowed 5 kilometres out of our house. So we can't even visit friends and family if they're not within that 5 kilometre range. So... we haven't been able to get to a movie theater. The leader of our great state, Dan Andrews, we're not going to get political, but anyway.
Dan Allen Movies, we are not getting political here on the We Heard This political podcast.
But what I'll say is, as Jackson said, restrictions seem to be we're getting closer and closer to finally seeing that movie, Jackson. What's it called?
Tenant.
I just can't.
We couldn't go one episode. You know, be it Minisode 5, episode 33, 34, Minisode 6, whatever we're up to here with today's recording, we still had to mention it.
Yeah,
Dan,
yeah.
Along with today's topic, we've also got the return of a special segment for our faithful listeners as we finish off the show. Could it be the movie challenge back in prime form?
No, the movie challenge is not back, Jackson. Don't you dare try and hijack a segment. Absolutely no chance. We are recommending a film to the listeners that we've seen recently. And I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be Enola Holmes, which I accidentally... Ooh. You ready? I accidentally, when I posted the review on Instagram, I called it a bowler. Yeah, dead set. I had to quickly change it. Just a bit of spell check. So,
it's got to be the best Freudian slip you've made all year.
That's why I get you to check them, Jackson. You know why. Check my spelling errors anyway.
What do you mean? I thought you write all those reviews yourself.
I do, but sometimes I get a little help from a friend of mine. He may or may not be my co-host to this show. Okay, so, Jackson, what are we reviewing today?
Today, Dan Allen Movies. We're taking a dark turn down some interesting backwoods. It's post-World War II. It's the darkest possible team-up timeline for Peter Parker, Pennywise, Batman, Bucky Barnes, John Connor, and Alice in Wonderland. It's box office gold, Dan. It's the devil all the time. Hit the cue.
And even the Lord Jesus himself was presented with delusions in the desert, but only through his faith and his strength overcame. The Lord's delusion.
I've had enough of that. Jackson, give me the synopsis.
Knock'em-Stiff, Ohio, and its neighboring backwoods are teeming with corruption and brutality in the post-war world of rural, small-town America. Sinister characters like an unholy preacher, twisted couple, and crooked sheriff converge around young Arvin Russell as he fights the evil forces that threaten him and his family.
And he had top billing, Tom Holland, okay, who plays this character. He had top billing in the film. And how long till we actually saw him in the film, Jackson?
Oh, we had him in the opening sequences. It just so happened that he had to disappear for about 35, 40 minutes for Bill Skarsgård to come in and do his thing. But, Dan, forget about Tom Holland, who we will touch on later. What an all-star cast that was assembled for this picture. God only knows how much money Ted Sarandos and Netflix had, cash to splash, you might say, at this picture, knowing they wouldn't have to spend a dime on advertising. It's a stellar lineup. Let's go through it. Our narrator, Dan, the author of the book that this screenplay is adapted from, Donald Ray Pollock, doing his best Sam Elliott from the Big Lebowski impersonation. Aforementioned Tom Holland, Bill Skarsgård, Rob Pat, third billing, also receives the untitled billing in the credits. Sebastian Stan, Riley Keough, Jason Clarke, Eliza Scanlon.
Jason Clarke. Give him a round of applause, Aussie. Or / New Zealand.
We'll claim him as one of our own, but God,
Yeah.
that bloke has been in some stinkers, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been in some good films as well. Like
Very
Planet.
mixed.
He was in, was it Rise of the Apes? The second one, I think he was in. Did you ever see Serenity with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway?
Oh my God, I haven't seen this, but
No?
I know it came highly regarded from Dan Allen movies.
I loved the opening 30 minutes. He was in it. He was Anne Hathaway's drunken boyfriend or husband.
Of course, he was a drunken
I know,
husband. Poor
he's not-
Jason Clarke. Talk about typecast.
Yeah.
If Ben Mendelsohn isn't the Aussie villain, it's Jason Clarke.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, he does a good job though. I really like him as an actor. Like every time I see him, I'm excited because what was the first movie I saw him? Was it Zero Dark 30? That was his big breakout role, I think.
yeah.
He's popped up in some other things. Everest, Terminator Genesis, obviously not one of his better films. But he's actually, he's been in quite a few films. Yeah, but I'm looking through now. You're right. Not the greatest resume. Not up to the Joel Edgertons of this world. But in terms of the film, Jackson, what did you think?
I sent you a text message 30 minutes in just saying how disgusting and gross this movie was. And this was one of the most bleak, miserable, grim, nihilistic, gothic movies I've seen all year. And that says a lot for someone that's been recommending Lars von Trier films and some crazy batshit dark stuff to you. But this kind of took the cake. All these poor women in this film were just beaten and bruised and everything under the sun. Even Tom Holland's character, Arvin Russell.
Arvin, yeah.
Even he had to be subjected to this disgusting cycle of violence. And did you notice in those closing shots when he's picked up by someone, that guy kind of resembled a Charles Manson?
Yeah.
And supposedly the model of that car might have been a Manson vehicle.
Yeah.
Look, it's not spoilers saying Tom Holland's around there at the end of the movie, because some of this is non-linear. We get some of this hyperlink cinema. It can be at first quite intimidating to follow.
But I mean, should I play the cue early here? I might have to, because you've just gone a little bit too full hog. Spoiler. Yeah, that is a spoiler, man. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I think, sorry to cut you off, but that ending to me was really disturbing. Because at that point I was really invested in Tom, in Arvin. He'd gone through all this shit, all these criminal, devilish people, and then he rocks up falling asleep in the wrong car. You got to just be like, fuck, can this guy catch a break?
No, definitely not. And how Tom Holland's character Arvin describes his father is that his father was someone who battled the devil all the time. And this trouble, this devil, it's going to follow poor Tom Holland, his character Arvin, his entire life. There's something tough about this movie. We're going to go into the ratings much, much later on in this episode, where we're going to discuss the critical score and the audience score. Dan, I'm seeing audiences love this movie so much for powerful performances and great acting from Rob Pattison and Tom Holland. But like, do people really enjoy this? I mean, I've watched some pretty dark and miserable shit that I have enjoyed, despite it being uncomfortable. A lot of David Lynch movies stick out, but this is super bleak.
Yeah, it's a really tough one to review because the first half, I can't say, even the second half, I can't say I enjoyed it, but it did keep me engaged, and I wanted to see what happened next. So it's a different type of movie, isn't it? Where you're not, maybe it's like Prisoners, although Prisoners, I felt like I was enjoying it. Jake Gyllenhaal sort of unwrapped this mystery, where this was there was just so many bad things happening.
It was
and so many
unrelenting.
disgusting, and even you remember the spider scene.
God, yeah, with poor Dudley Dursley from the Harry Potter films came in. And showed up
I knew I recognized him from somewhere. Yeah,
right. Somehow managed to out-creep Rob Pattison, who was putting on this crazy southern drawl, yet he stood out even more. I mean, this actor Harry Melling, he's got a future as a character actor. I could see him doing
he's a villain.
Disturbing roles.
He is not playing a hero ever. Guy, he is a villain for the rest of his life.
I don't know. I think he
you reckon he
can
pull that off?
Why not?
No one can pull. I tell you what, no one can pull off this Rob Pattison stuff because that man. How does he do it? He apparently he kept the accent hidden from everyone on set, and rocked up on day one and then delivered it. And I hear all these stories about him where there's a little bit of method acting going on. And I feel like, because you've even told me he doesn't do a lot of rehearsals.
Correct.
He's a very unorthodox actor, but it's working for him. He just keeps putting in great performances. Here he is just disturbing. He is sickening what he's doing to these girls. And he pulls it off. You just do not... This guy's gross. He is just disturbing. The fact that he's come all the way from Twilight, where he's a heartthrob, to this disturbing pedophile... And
go back further to the Harry Potter series. He debuts in The Goblet of Fire, and at that time, he and Harry Melling were sharing the screen. So you could go all the way back there. Yeah, I see Rob Pat in this movie, and I start to see a young Gary Oldman, this chameleon-like character actor who is going to just disappear into roles. Like Rob Pat, easily, if he wants to keep in this game, he could have another 40 years of excellent performances ahead of him. I know we're speaking a lot about the acting, that only minutes ago, I kind of derided the public for talking about, the best acting ever. But it's hard to talk about much of this film because it is so gross.
Very gross, very disturbing. Even Jason Clarke's character, Carl, he and his wife and that storyline. I was wondering how it was all going to come together because we have these branching storylines, and then they just seem to fit it together quite nicely by the end. I was really worried halfway through. Very slow film up to that point. What did you text me again? You were disgusted, but you were also a little bit bored. Yeah,
I was. I found the opening jumping around and cutting between Bill Skarsgård's sequences. What was his character's name? Willard as Arvin's father. Starting with Arvin, then going back to Willard returning from World War II, meeting his soon-to-be wife and father of his son, and then, of course, being what he believed being tested by God, and that definitely didn't play out well. What was going on there with those was just a little bit testing for me because we knew that it was a flashback, and if it's something where it's in a novel, which the original novel Devil Blood Time, Donald Ray Pollock, who we've already mentioned, the narrator here, when it's written down, we can kind of follow that a little bit more, but on screen, it just didn't seem to translate all that well. In fact, you said to me when I buzzed you that you thought the opening act, everything with Bill Skarsgård, was a total mess, and I kind of have to agree. I wasn't all that enthralled until we were able to follow.
It went on way too long.
Yeah, we needed a likable protagonist, someone with agency and someone who wasn't relying on the church or these false idols to look up to.
And even that dog scene.
Oh my God. And if you kill a dog in a movie, jeez.
Yeah, I have to warn people because that is really disturbing. You don't see the dog be killed, but I guess
it's strung up.
If you made it this far in the podcast, you've probably already seen the film, so you know what we're talking about. But yeah, I don't find Bill Skarsgård very likable after it. After him playing Pennywise, that's unfortunately for me. Every time I see him now, I see that character. Unfortunately, hopefully he can break out of the mold. It's a little bit like Daniel Radcliffe. I have to say, when I see him, I think Harry Potter. I still do.
Hey, you could say it's a little bit of Rob Pat as Edward.
Yeah, see, I guess Twilight fans probably do see that, but in this, do you? He's completely different. You know,
No,
he even
although
looks
you and
different.
I
Did he
have
have
watched-
a belly for this? I feel like he had a belly in this. Yeah.
Well, I believe both he and Sebastian Stan, who we'll go into here in a moment, they both actually wore fat suits for these roles.
Oh, they did. Wow.
But I mean, you and I, compared to your average moviegoer or your twihards, we've seen Rob Pat do a lot more bizarre and gross and disturbing performances. So this is like just another feather in his hat, you know?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. So maybe it's because I didn't get brought up with Twilight, so I don't see him in that, because I only saw the first two. How many were there? 7.
Oh, goodness knows.
Did you see them all?
I feel like I might have seen the first and maybe part 1 of the third film. And I couldn't tell you what happened to any of them. That's about it.
I'm taking a curveball here, but I actually want to know: are you a big Harry Potter guy?
Very unlikely for this podcast.
No, we don't do this. Are you a big?
We
Harry
never got
Potter
a tangent,
guy or not?
No. When I was younger, I loved the books and I loved the movies, but I think I stopped reading maybe after the Order of the Phoenix. I couldn't even tell you what happens in that novel, and I haven't seen any of the films since Alfonso Cuarón's Prisoner of Azkaban,
which is one of the best ones from memory. Maybe not.
Yeah, probably one of the best, but I haven't even seen them now in easily 10, 15 years.
The funny thing is, I saw every single one in the theaters. I couldn't tell you what happened in any of them. I don't know. Maybe it's my bad memory coming to the surface again. But yeah, we talk about
you are so sharp.
We talk about the acting. We talk about the acting a lot, but the actual story of this is very slow and methodical as well. And what is the story here? It's literally just these devilish characters.
Men are crazy and will abuse themselves, their wives, everyone around them for no real reason other than they're evil.
Is that a bad thing? Does that hold the film down?
That's a tough question, because if we were to compare this to like a Cormac McCarthy adaptation, think Coen Brothers, think No Country for Old Men. These criticisms that I'm making are positive, right? Everyone loves that movie. They're positives in that universe. Here, we're kind of crying out for some kind of humor and something nice, and it's just too uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah,
so
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's missing and why it works in a movie from the Coen Brothers, but it won't necessarily work here. I don't know. Maybe it's just really unrelenting and there's no mystery. There's nothing to it. We've seen this described as a psychological thriller. I think that's a stretch. It's just a real
it's not
downbeat.
a psychological
It's a
thriller.
downbeat drama.
It's not even a thriller, really. Maybe in some moments, but
probably
maybe
the third act.
The third act, yeah.
Arvin Russell on the run with the Luger, I guess so.
That's when it picked
all
up.
gets tightened up.
That is when the film becomes its most entertaining. You just got to try and get through that first hour and a bit. But some people won't. I can tell you right now, Netflix, they won't make it that far. They won't even see Tom Holland, some people, because it really is a slow get there. And it's unrelenting, as you said. It's depressing. Very depressing film. And usually I don't like those sort of films that are just so down and depressing. But there was something about Tom Holland and his performance, a bit of hope in it, and him sticking it to the man a little bit, that pushed me through. And the fact that we've got 3 great villainous actors. Even Sebastian Stan surprised me here, how well he was. I know that was actually originally going to be the role was for Chris Evans, was it?
Yeah, that's a very different kind of movie.
Yeah, because I don't know if Chris Evans could pull that off like Sebastian. Yeah, do you reckon he could pull it off? I'm not sure Chris can do a villain that well.
I'm confident. Think back to Knives Out. Not even 12 months ago.
But that's more quirky, a bit more humorous. He was cracking jokes. He wasn't a villain in that. He was the villain. Spoilers, but...
So he wasn't the villain, but he was the villain?
I mean, he was the villain of the film, but he wasn't really menacing like he needed to be a little bit in this film. So Sebastian Stan, I've only seen him in Captain America, to be honest, and Avenger films. I don't know what else he's done, but he shows it here that he does have chops outside the superhero films.
I like that word menacing you said there, Dan, because he is a menacing presence, despite not having as many scenes as even Jason Clarke and to some respect Rob Pat. And it's a more complex portrayal for Sebastian Stan. His turn as the sheriff works well.
What do you think of Tom Holland's performance and his accent and how he came across, even though we didn't get him until 45 minutes into the film?
I'm glad you asked. For me, easily the standout of the picture. I thought
100%.
a solid cast from top to bottom. Everyone was pretty game. Some had more to do than others. Cough, all the male cast cough. Tom Holland, though, absolutely rocked it. This was his movie to win, and I believe he did. If there is a reason to watch this and to sit through all these miserable imagery and violence and abuse to women, it's Tom Holland.
He's always been a good actor. I've seen him in one of the first films I ever saw him in. I think it was called Impossible. It was the tsunami picture. Do you remember that one?
Oh, was that with Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it was called Impossible. He was young then, and a really great performance in that. And then I saw him, in Heart of the Sea, which is a Ron Howard picture. Yep. He was great in that as well. So everything I've seen him in, he delivers. So I knew he'd get it. The only thing I was worried about was this accent he had to pull off. He is a British fellow.
As many of the cast are.
Yeah, I know. Is there any Americans? Sebastian might be the only one.
Sebastian, Riley Keough, I believe Haley is, but that might be it.
Yeah, so I was worried, but he did pull off the accent. He only slipped about once or twice where I slightly noticed it, but this or that, really.
Yeah.
In terms of a core performance, emotional, gripping, you felt for him. And that's what we needed. We needed someone to hang on to and for us to connect with, and he was that beacon.
Oh, absolutely. It helps when you cast Spider-Man in your film. That should put some more eyes on your picture, but it works. To the movie's credit, it absolutely works. And Dan, another Jake Gyllenhaal picture here on the We Watch
How many is he producing? He's producing every film we review.
He's just pumping them out, but more power to him. At least he's doing some interesting things.
But the last one, what was the last one he did that we reviewed here?
Did he have a hand in Mandy? Yeah, no, it was Relic. It was Relic.
Relic. See, Relic, and then he's gone to a Netflix film. It's interesting where he's going here. No, who you're thinking of is Frodo Baggins.
Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
Yes, Frodo Baggins. Now, where's our Frodo Baggins, our Mysterio, our Spider-Man team up? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, no. You know what? I could actually see Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie. Yeah, I feel like he might have been attached at some point, don't you? Really do.
For sure. You could see him playing any of these rough or rugged characters.
Really, he could play anyone.
Imagine him with Riley Keough. Like, Jesus Christ, that'd be rough.
Yeah. How did you feel about some of these disturbing moments? Is it too much?
I think I've made that very clear. I thought it was super egregious at times. It's funny because I will talk about, I love getting depraved and ultra violence and being uncomfortable while watching a film, but sometimes it can push it a little bit too far. Having to feel, I guess when there's so much tragedy on screen and there's no cathartic release, which is very common of a Cormac McCarthy picture. And then I guess here with this author, Donald Ray Pollock, when we haven't got that release and there's nothing there to kind of, shake you out of it and think, no, it's okay, this is just a movie, or there's going to be a Hollywood ending, then it's a little bit tough to swallow. So Riley Keough, her poor character is drug addicted. She's being forced to have sex with these men. She definitely doesn't enjoy it. She's stuck in this dead-end marriage. And then finally, she ends up getting shot by Tom Holland. And I guess it puts her out of her misery, but fuck, what do I go?
That's the only thing with this film. They don't treat the women very well. There's nothing really.
No, and you know what? Yeah. Sure, it's a product of its time during the 40s, 50s, and then into the 60s by the end of the movie. But it's now 2020. It's 80, 70, 60 years on, could we not do another kind of spin? Do we have to have Eliza Scanlon, who I can't wait to see her in Baby Teeth, by the way, and of course she was in Little Women. Here she ends up hanging herself by mistake. Like, fuck.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That's
scene as
brutal.
well.
This movie is
Yeah.
unrelenting.
And she was pregnant with his baby.
Oh God. Ugh.
And she obviously was forced to do like that in itself is sickening. Yeah, it's some really disturbing
It's a
themes.
tough pill to swallow.
But it doesn't disrespect anything, does it? It still plays it safe enough, would you say?
What do you mean? Elaborate.
Well, sometimes they can go a little bit too far and it can become obnoxious. It can become disrespectful to real life matters, real life events, you know, because there's people out there that have been through stuff like this and it brings up incredibly devastating demons. So you've got to watch what you're doing, how you portray things. You see what I'm saying? I felt like
Yeah.
it was still within the story. It didn't go over the line. It was on the line. It didn't go over it. I
suppose you're right, Dan, because it does feel like a full fleshed out universe. It's not necessarily a reflection of what the real world actually is. And this is just a hyper violent, hyper brutal universe as put together by an author and a screenwriter. Because it's you know, it's like this isn't real because this is so goddamn bleak. Although some of these themes being in the absence of God, yet trying to play to this religion and play to a higher power saving you, I'm sure there'd be a few people out there having left super religious backgrounds or families or even cults who that might be a bit intimidating. It might be a bit confrontational. And you said earlier with a trigger warning about the dog dying, a trigger warning if you've got a strong religious background, because this might be a bit much for you too.
The narrator, the author of this book, he strikes me as a George R. R. Martin type, a Stephen King type, where their minds are ticking and thinking of the most effed up things. To put this onto a book, my God, I'm a bit concerned. Because Jason Clarke's character, he's obsessed with taking photos with his wife, doing things to random men, and then they shoot them. It's like the most random idea.
In cold blood.
It's the most random idea, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something
that is it realistic? You know. Anyway,
it makes your skin crawl. You finish this, you've got to have at least 2 or 3 showers.
What was the most disturbing scene for you?
Goodness me, that's really hard. All right, I'm probably going to throw to one of these sequences with Rob Pat and the young girls, either Eliza Scanlon or the other young actress. And then with Tom Holland finding the panties outside,
that's shocking.
That was really bad because that's a total abuse of power, and you'd hate to think that something like that had ever happened. We're not going to go into it. This isn't Spotlight the podcast, but come on. Ooh.
I think the worst scene was the hanging when she hanged. That was shocking. Yeah, that was really emotional. Actually, you felt really bad. You couldn't but help feel so bad. So, yeah. Why don't we?
And it was such like a victim performance from Eliza Scanlon as well. It was very, very expertly played, but it really pulled at your heartstrings.
Oh,
so yeah. I'm sorry, everyone. We had Bill and Ted, full of jokes, full of life, full of energy. This episode, totally off the wall.
Jackson, I want to hear what the critics have to say.
Jackson's ratings.
IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
It's time for Jackson's ratings. Here we go, Dan. Speed round. IMDb, 7.1 out of 10. 7.1 out of 10. That's a bit high. 41,574 user ratings. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think it's that high. I think you'll find that general moviegoers, if they stick this one through, they'll really enjoy it. Like a Prisoners, like a Jake Gyllenhaal thriller, one of those films. Tom Holland gets you through, and I know a lot of these, a lot of general moviegoers, this sickening sort of stuff, secretly they are entertained. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's a bit like watching a Ted Bundy or an Ed Gein
'Cause-
documentary. There's something alluring about these people who are just so
Correct.
outside the realm of reality. Plus, again, for general moviegoers or the more contemplative moviegoer, when you have an actor like Rob Pattison on your poster, it's at least going to get your spidey senses tingling.
Yeah. So 7 doesn't surprise me.
Rotten Tomatoes, tomato meter. 65% of critics have given this a positive or a fresh review. 164 reviews so far, an average rating of 6.29 out of 10. So less than IMDb from the critics. The audience score, though, 82% of audiences have given this a score of 3.5 out of 5 or higher on that website. And Dan, the average audience rating from 1,664 audience ratings is 4 out of 5.
Yeah. No, I'm still not that. And I think that how many people are doing that one though, compared to the others? It wouldn't be as many. I wouldn't have thought. That might be only 10,000 compared to a 40,000 IMDb. So
I suppose we'll keep things moving. Metascore at the moment of 54 out of 100 from 36 critic reviews and 7.9 out of 10 user score from 158 user reviews. Finally, celebrating 500 million users on their platform and still not sponsoring our We Watch This Movie podcast, Letterboxd. 3.4 out of... Hey, please, take it away.
Jackson, don't you think Letterboxd are a bit delusional for not having us as a sponsor?
I think they might be a bit delusional. And I think we might be a bit delusional. If we don't use this cue at least once more. Dan Allen Movies, give me your best delusions impersonation.
Delusions!
Now let's compare it.
Pretty good?
Delusions!
Oh, you're better.
Can we
You're
hear it?
better. Can you hear it? Oh man, that's from Mandy, which we reviewed. You can check that out, and you could also use our code WWT on shutter.com. Anyway, Jackson.
Oh, what a silky smooth segue. Listeners, for those out there who might be checking out the We Watch This Movie video cast exclusive on YouTube, you'll notice I'm bathed in this beautiful red light from Mandy. So there's that to look forward to on our YouTube channel. Let's keep things moving. Again, Letterboxd, welcome to 10 minutes ago. 3.4 out of 5. It's been watched so far by 77,401 members on that website at the time of recording and liked by 17,919 members.
I'm getting the feeling you think this is a little bit high across the board.
That feeling is correct. It's a little bit high across the board. Sometimes it's a bit low. Sometimes it's a bit high. This for me is, it's just not.
So what let it down for you? What let it down for you?
I didn't find it all that entertaining. I was tested too much by the Bill Skarsgård openings act, which we haven't got into it too much. I enjoy him as an actor, sure, but I was kind of just waiting for the real plot to kick off and for things to unravel.
Yeah, that's the problem. It was too long of a because you knew it was a flashback, and it was just. Because you knew that was Tom Holland, right?
I wanted to get to Tom. Yeah.
It needed to be half the length. I felt like it was 40 minutes. Was it not?
It pretty much. This is a 138-minute feature. This could have been 98 minutes. We have 40 minutes out of everything that could have been pulled apart and thrown out. And what's the difference? Netflix still have people sitting there for an hour and a half. I guess they've got, this is the most watched movie when it came out for several days worldwide, at least on Netflix. But just chop it down.
But what do we learn in that sequence that we needed for the journey, really? That's the problem I have. I don't know if we needed all that.
It was too much. It was too much setup because we saw these parallels between Willard and between his son Arvin. So we understood the path of violence, the path of destruction. that Arvin, Tom Holland's character, would end up walking, but we didn't need to see so much. We didn't need to see his poor father being tested to the brink of fucking suicide.
Yeah. So that yeah, we agree on that. But besides that, I'll give you two questions. First one is,
I love your questions.
After halfway, where would you say your rating was at?
It was going to be a 4 or a 5.
Okay. Now, after that section, once we get to Tom Holland, what are your disappointments from there on in? Or did it only go up? Get better?
Yeah, interesting. I believe it only got better as we went on, and we were able to see Arvin actually undergo his character arc and have something to fight for and take action and do something outside the church, outside the religion. Harry Melling, Dudley Dursley, while I was intrigued to see him on film and his performance, because it didn't quite go anywhere, and it just kind of led down this path where eventually it pulled in Jason Clarke and Riley Keough's couple into things. But that was so brutal and disturbing as well that it was quite tough. And it had me quite conflicted because we've been witnessing someone who was a villain, yet then we've got to be sympathetic for them. It's part of this complex portrayal. I understand what they're going for, but I feel like in a book, you're not being as morally pulled apart. Maybe on a rewatch, I'll rate this a little bit higher.
Too many storylines going on. Too many villainous people. Should they have stuck to one?
Definitely not. Dan Allen movies, come on. We've all seen a Paul Thomas Anderson film. You can give us more story.
So you think, you like that there's a 4 or 5 of them? You like that element rather than sticking to one? Because I do like that there's several. You know,
I enjoy that there's several. I said it earlier. It makes us feel like we're in a fully fleshed out universe and world. Is it something I'm interested in returning to or even watching the first time? Sorry, not really.
What about
at least it's an interesting take.
What about this as a different film? We cut down the opening from 40 minutes to 10, and we use that 30, and we put it at the end of the film with Charles Manson and Tom. Do you have a better film there?
We do have a better film there. In fact, we might have covered this film about 20 episodes ago, and it might have starred Leo and Brad Pitt.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think he had more screen time in this movie, Charles, than that movie. So, but yeah. I like that element. For me, the disappointment, besides the opening, although I did like Sebastian Stan, that storyline for me, I wouldn't say it felt shoot in, but I don't know if it did much for me. This guy trying to be a mayor. What was the point of it? I would say. The other two he was another character who was harboring some dark secrets, and his skeleton's in the closet, which in this case was his sister, who he even learns happened to be one of these serial killers picking off these poor hitchhikers. Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's where it ties in. I mean, they do a good job tying it in the end. Like, and Sebastian Stan's character as the sheriff, when he's younger as an officer, he happens to pick up a young Arvin after Arvin's witnessed his father commit suicide. So I guess at the end there, it's part of that denouement that it's meant to be closing the loop. Okay, but so I guess you're right. It didn't quite hit. You've convinced me that it did serve a purpose. I just think maybe, I don't know, because I liked his performance as well. Maybe I'm thinking up my ass here, but what would you have wanted to have seen? I feel like there was something missing in the film, though. Something inherently missing. Something lighthearted to breathe for 2 minutes. I don't even think it's lighthearted. I think there's some sort of mystery element or something to, instead of just these people just being bad people, some sort of, one other thing that connects them all. Or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Just some sort of piece to the puzzle. And it doesn't have to be, you got to try and find someone and rescue someone, or, they don't have to be part of a cult. But I don't know. There was just something inherently missing. Although I did enjoy the film as a whole, once I left the TV. Enjoyed's maybe enjoyed's not the word, but... Endured. Yeah, endured. Endured might be the word. But yeah, it is a really tricky one to review. This might be the toughest review I've had on this podcast.
It's a tough one for me too. Who knows? Maybe we revisit this in 10, 20,
Yeah.
30, 40, God forbid 50 episodes time if we're still on the airwaves.
Still
and
alive.
maybe well, God only knows here in Melbourne.
Hopefully
But
we've
we
seen
might have been-
Tenet by then. Far out.
Hopefully we've seen what?
What episode are we up to now?
Dan Allen Movies, I'm so glad you asked. I believe this is episode number 33. Listeners, you're going to hear me live on
33.
air get this wrong. Here we go.
I think it's 34.
It's episode 33.
Oh, well done. So, will we
Can I
see
get a round of
Tenet?
applause because you love me. You really love me.
Do I love you? Because we might end up reviewing Tenet. We might end up reviewing Tenet as our 50th. Jesus, DJ's gone crazy.
You're going
As
a
our
bit
fifth-
going a bit of a back and forward through time here, almost like another movie we hope to see.
Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to there, man. Sorry. No idea. I know you're trying to set me up for a cue, but anyway. We might end up seeing that movie as our 50th review. Maybe it lines up. I don't know. I haven't done the calculations yet. But, yeah.
We never do here at the podcast.
Well, Jackson, we've beat it around the bush enough.
How about you kick us off?
You want me to kick you?
I want you to kick us off.
I wanted you to
because
kick
it sounds
us
like
off.
you
but
enjoy.
anyway.
I know
you
do,
know
though.
what my review is anyway. So I've already posted 7 out of 10 for me. That's why I wasn't surprised because I ended up coming in at 7. Now I had it at a 4 or 5 as well halfway through, but it won me over. How it connected the dots, how these villains came to their demise, and Tom Holland, the bitter ending, the you could call it a devastating ending there if you got the hints that they were laying out there, but it was a really good ending. Even though it's devastating, I like the ending. So, yeah, I give it a 7. Would I watch it again? Not anytime soon. Would I recommend it? To certain people, not to everyone listening, that's for sure. You have to be a big Tom Holland fan, you have to be a big thriller mystery fan, and you have to be able to stomach some of these disturbing elements. So, with all that in mind, if you think you can get through that, you probably already have because you've made it this far. So, yeah, 7 out of 10 from me. Jackson?
For one of the darkest movies we're going to get in a fucking bleak year, 2020, I can't give this one a positive review. I'm trying really hard to do it, but if I'm giving it a positive review, then I'm recommending it, and I'm not going to recommend this movie. Rob Pat, I'm so sorry. I've done this to you. My one true love. I want to recommend people go watch another Rob Pat film,
God.
like High Life, like
You
The
sound like
Lighthouse.
me and Joel Edgerton.
Really, it really is here at the moment.
When we get those two together, that'll be the film we
Joel
give a
and
10.
Rob. Ooh, oh,
That'll
hey,
be the film we
didn't
give.
we already get them together? The King.
Oh, we did too. We did too. How could I forget?
Maybe
Last
that could be
year.
episode. That could be the real episode number.
I think
34.
I had. Did you ever watch The King? I think I gave it an 8.
I actually haven't seen The King
Oh, okay.
with
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet,
Oh,
who's
that's a fantastic
going to be in
film.
a Villeneuve film coming up. All right, enough beating around the bush. Here we go. For me, 5 out of 10 crucified dog carcasses.
Ooh, that's low. I thought you'd go 6, 5. Really?
Listeners, I'm going to peel back the curtain, a bit of expose here on the podcast. I quite often don't have these ratings set in stone until we record, until I get right into it. And yeah, I've spoken about too many cons that it's just dragged it down from getting a good rating. So it's a 5 out of 10, a 2.5 out of 5. Dan Allen Movies a 7. Together, that's a 12 out of 20, or rounded down, a 6 out of 10, a 3 out of 5. Make of that what you will, listeners. It's not going to be in our best of the year.
Hey, if you went 6, it still would have been a 6. You didn't have to go 5.
I
But
want to
anyway.
do this justice. That's where it's going to sit. Dead middle.
There you
Average.
go. So we're going to give it a 6, which I oh, that's fair for me. I've got it in my top 10 of the year. Save me here, Jackson. I'm dying. I've got it in my top 10 films of the year. Currently in my current list. So
Okay.
it just sneaks in there at the moment. Not ahead of Extraction. Just want to clear that up. Extraction is the best.
Is Extraction a 7.1?
Jackson. Jackson. Extraction is the best action film of the year. Obviously, I haven't seen Tenet, so that'll be blistered away. But
Haven't seen what?
Tenet. We've already used the 3 Qs. Sorry, mate. So yeah, it just doesn't sneak into your top 10 though. Probably your bottom 10. You haven't seen enough films.
Oh wow! Excuse me. Did someone watch?
I think you've seen 20 films, so you've got a top 10 and a bottom 10. You got no middle.
Oh, perfect. That's all right. We can cut out the fluff. We don't have any fluff and any beating around bush here at the We Watch This Movie podcast. Dan, I believe we've done this movie justice. How about we bring back this special segment that's coming here, episode 33. Dan, Alan, movies. What have you been watching this week?
What have I been watching this week? Do you want me to go through the list? I've been going through a bunch of stuff.
Shuffle those notes.
I'll go through. First off, I watched Enola Holmes, okay? And I heard so many
Ebola Holmes.
I heard so many things, but guys, I'm sorry, it wasn't that good. I hate to break it to you. Enola Holmes was not that good. I had it at a 6 in the end. I thought Millie Bobby Brown is fantastic. Can't wait to see what she does in the future. Really bright actor at 16 years of age. Fantastic. Henry Cavill is not showing what he can do here. People always say, is this guy a one-dimensional actor? And this isn't helping his case, unfortunately. Sam Claflin, I think his name is. I've liked him in a few films. Me Before You, I think one of them was, with Emilia Clarke. And another film with Shailene Woodley, Adrift, I think it was called. He's been in a few of those rom-com sort of films, and he's usually good. In this, I don't know. They didn't do much for me, guys. I had it at a 6. I thought it was average. Yeah, so I wouldn't go around recommend it to everyone. But I guess it's a little bit more happy. She breaks the fourth wall a few times. So, but there's better films you could be watching. Better films. If you haven't seen any of Nolan's, like name any director. Just there's better films to be seen than this. So that was one thing. I've also been going back and just watching Friends. You know, it's just a classic show, especially in quarantine. Just lifts you up a little bit, gives you a laugh.
Makes you feel like you're actually seeing some friends in person.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually really, really fun to sit down and watch that. A few more other shows I've been watching. Raised by Wolves, which is Ridley Scott's new show. 2 episodes in, really loving it. Give me a bit of Westworld vibes, bit of that Blade Runner vibe. So really enjoying that. A bit early to say at the moment. And also I started another show, Criminal, on Netflix, where it's literally just an interrogation scene. The whole thing is just in the interrogation room, and you got to try and figure out is this the culprit or are they lying? And it's just this back and forth of wits. It's fantastic. The fact that you can grip you in a 45-minute episode in one room and keep it fresh, I think it's fantastic. So I've been watching that. Kit Harington pops up in one episode there.
Nice.
For that. But that's a
bit of Jon Snow.
Bit of Jon Snow. So yeah, been trying a few different things, Jackson. A lot of TV lately, but yeah, I watched Enola Holmes, and the other film I watched was Lovebirds. The Lovebirds on Netflix as well, which was a dud, unfortunately.
More quality.
Yeah, so that was a bit disappointing as well. You know, that was supposed to be a comedy. Camille just didn't hit the mark there. So what have you been watching, mate?
Well, Dan, speaking of Blade Runner, that's going to do us for today's episode. Listeners, thank you so much for sticking it out. The devil all the time. No, I'm just kidding. Dan Allen Movies challenged me in the last week. I had annual leave from work, all the time in the world to not go anywhere in Melbourne, of course. Dan Allen Movies
might be your best movie week ever.
Maybe ever. Devil all the time, redacted from that week.
Oh, yeah.
I watched Arrival and Blade Runner 2049.
For the
Denis
first
Villeneuve.
time.
What a fucking genius.
Jackson,
both
do you have
movies
them
for the first time?
You have them at 9 now, both of them?
It's going to be tough to rate both these movies. And Dan, I want to leave some meat and flesh on the bones because we will cover both movies in long form here at the We Watch This Movie podcast. You heard it first, faithful listeners. I want to quickly go into 2049 as I've got some strong feelings about that movie.
Oh, what a film.
And you know what, Dan, you said to me, you want to live in that world. Hey, I'm going to join you.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. It's not a great place to live. Like, it's very claustrophobic. It feels like very poor, but
you have to like rain.
Yeah, you have to like rain, don't you? It never stops raining. But yeah, no. What were your thoughts?
To be continued. 9 out of 10 within cells interlinked.
So you get to the 9. Yes, thank you. Jackson, that's the best news I've heard all week. And Arrival.
That's the best review I've done in 34 episodes.
Arrival. Quick thoughts. Phenomenal.
We'll cover it in a later episode.
So you're telling me there's a chance that could hit the big 10-0. Is that why you're holding back here, or am I in the right area, or no?
I might see you come episode 60, 70. We'll make it a landmark. There is another Villeneuve film coming out later this year. Maybe we explore some of his back catalogue.
So you enjoyed Arrival more than Blade, just to get that out.
Oh God, you are so black and white. This guy does not let me. He does not let any sleeping dog lie.
Nope.
My goodness, how do I not know this after so many fucking hours?
See,
in the recording booth?
I had Arrival at a 6 out of 10 walking out the theater. I want to go back in time
and slap yourself
and slap that dickhead and punch him in the nose. What an idiot.
By the way, everyone, Danny's talking about himself. There's no domestic assault going on here.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 from me as well. So, or for both, anyway.
Ooh.
I'll have to go back. They could be 10. I just love both. You know, I love a sci-fi. You know me. So, especially from that man, Denis Villeneuve.
That's right, Villeneuve. And we can't wait to check out...
You know what's funny, though?
Denis,
I've never given one of his films a 10. Yeah, never. He always gets an 8 or 9 from me. He never quite gets that 10. Is Dune the film? Let's hope so.
Could it be David Lynch's Dune?
No. All right. Jackson, what do we got next week? He's got no idea. Guys, we've got a movie and we're going to be reviewing a movie next week. But we thank you for tuning in today. Jackson, where can they find us?
Faithful listeners, thank you so much for sticking it out. Episode number 34. We've got more minisodes coming on the way. If you want to check us out, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, Twitter, even on TikTok. We'd love for you, if you enjoy this podcast, please rate us 5 stars. It would mean the world. It helps spread our seed everywhere. Follow us on Spotify, subscribe to us on YouTube, drop a comment. Dan Allen Movies has given me a very interesting look after I've discussed some very disgusting topics here on the podcast, yet I'm talking about spreading my seed. Anyway, back to the read. Dan Allen Movies, Marshall on Film, the We Watch This Movie podcast. We are ending things.
You've lost the plot. You had a great ending. What is it again? It's a
third act problem.
I am Marshall on Film. He is Dan Allen Movies, and we are out of time.
Well, how about you give it a go? Go on.
I just did. What are you talking about? I'll go again. I am Dan Allen Movies. He is
Marshall on Film,
and we are out of time. Thanks for listening.
See, that wasn't so bad.